Everyone, I'm Bruce Karasik, co-founder of the Jewish Republican Alliance, and so glad you could all join us. We're very excited to have my good friend Joy Villa here today. We'll be talking to Joy in a few minutes. But first, in the famous 1967 Beatles song, Getting Better, Paul McCartney sings the memorable lyrics, "It's getting better all the time," while John Lennon responds, "It can't get much worse." Well, those lyrics seem to represent what's going on in our country right now. Our economy is starting to recover. We see more life on the road, and businesses are opening up as people learn to navigate through this really trying time. However, in some ways, it really can't get much worse. There's violence in our big cities. Police morale is at all-time lows while they're being attacked for doing their job. We've got mob rule and obliteration of free speech that has invaded our country. And anyone who disagrees with the mob rule or even silent is exposed to risk of being violently attacked, shamed, or threatened, having their job lost or businesses. Our Christian brothers and sisters are also under attack, and we must speak out and stand by their sides as well. Churches are being burned and places of worship are being shut down while looting and mayhem have become a way of life in our big cities. But the true story is America has always been a place where people all over the world have sacrificed and struggled to come to, because America was the land of opportunity for all. No matter where you come from, if you worked hard enough and you did not quit, you could make it in America. And many of our citizens, however, have forgotten our history. Some have never even been taught about our history, and many have not been educated about the greatness of America. But I am optimistic about our future. I've always believed in the wisdom of the American people. And I believe that goodness will ultimately triumph. And I believe that the most accomplished president in our lifetime will find a way to lead us out of these hard times. Who knows, maybe we'll have an October surprise with a vaccine or a coronavirus cure. But I believe that President Trump can be reelected. I've said it many times that Ronald Reagan was elected to win the Cold War. And Donald Trump was elected to defeat the left. And we're all here. Let's work together and speak out and fight together on the world stage of ideas to help him finish the job. So we can look back and say that we made a difference. We stood up for America and Israel when they needed us most. So in closing, as Abraham Lincoln once said, "Sir, my concern is not whether God is on our side. My greatest concern is to be on God's side, for God is always right." So we ask for your welcome, and we welcome your support throughout this endeavor. And now I thank you for being here again, and I'd like to introduce you to fellow co-founder Mitch Silberman. Mitch.
Hello, JRA community. It's always great when we are together. Several weeks ago, we hosted Shelley Luther. Prior to the lockdown, most of you probably never heard of her. She's a Dallas salon owner who had the temerity to open up her own business so she and her employees could support their families. And for that, a judge literally sentenced her to jail. And as her attorney told us that day, you can loot a business, you just can't open one. After that, we had Brandon Straka. Now, he described himself as a New York liberal who literally cried when Hillary lost. But after the election, he got curious about President Trump and other issues and started doing his own homework. And he realized how much he'd been lied to. He started realizing that it is indeed fake news. And based on that, he created the Walk Away campaign, which has taken the nation by storm. And I hope you tuned in to hear his amazingly incredible, inspirational story. 2 weeks ago, we had the sage, Larry Elder. By now, you're probably very familiar with this take no prisoners approach. And of course, today we have Joy Villa. You're going to hear her story in a few moments. All of these people have amazing qualities about them, but there's one in particular I want to bring to your attention. That's their courage. In their own way, each of these people are exhibiting courage that is needed now more than ever. Now, when Bruce and I co-founded the Jewish Republican Alliance in March of 2016 and continued to grow it, did that take courage? Perhaps. I didn't see it that way. I just felt that we could not sit idly by and do nothing. We have to do all we can to protect our beloved country. As most of you know, about 70% of the Jews vote Democrat. We're not going to get into that today. It's a whole other discussion. But the Black community apparently votes 95% for the Democratic Party. Now, talk about courage. I'm going to call it positive chutzpah. Imagine you're a Black American, you live in Hollywood, you make your living in the entertainment industry, and you have the positive chutzpah to wear a MAGA, a Trump dress to the Grammys. That takes courage. And I share this with you because I want to invite you to unleash your own courage. Within you, there's a seed of courage that can make a difference and help create the future that you and your family deserve. As Bruce mentioned, now more than ever, conservative activism is desperately needed to protect and preserve the Judeo-Christian values upon which our beloved country was founded. And it's very fitting, I'm going to leave you with a great quote I happened to see this morning. The right way is not always the popular and easy way. Standing for right when it is unpopular is a true test of moral character. All of us are being tested right now for our moral character, and it's time to stay informed, get involved, and make a difference. And with that, I have the pleasure to introduce Joy Villa. It's kind of ironic because Joy invited Bruce and I to her Hollywood home and interviewed us on her podcast. Now we get to return the favor. So let me give you a very quick brief bio. Joy is a pro-life, pro-America conservative singer and actress in Hollywood who has been outspoken as a regular political commentator to Fox News, is regularly at the White House, and was appointed to the Trump campaign in 2017 by Lara Trump. Joy, welcome. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. You know, I'm a big supporter of Israel and of the American Jewish population. I have many friends that are Jewish. I was raised around that, and I think it's terrible to see what's been happening in the Jewish community and how it's crazy that so much anti-Semitism is coming up, but on the liberal side. And it's of course okay to be an anti-Semite, to be against the Jewish people if they're pro-Trump or if they're conservative, which I think is disgusting. Just as being a Black American, being Latina American, it's just as disgusting to call me the N-word or coon just because I'm a conservative of color. So I do feel like I've said that before. It's like, we have a very synergistic sort of like familyness, like I think Black Americans and Jewish Americans, because we have been historically hated, we have been historically beat down, but yet we are the strongest people and we are fighters, and many of us actually are conservative, even though we vote Democrat. So interesting fact.
You know, many of you know Joy for the Trump dresses that she wears, but I know her as a good friend, a very smart, articulate spokesman for conservative causes. You know, she hosted the Daily Ledger show for a full week on One America News, and she had me on, and I really enjoyed being a guest. But one thing I really noticed was how well she did and how articulate she was talking about conservative causes and conservative issues. She really shined there. And Joy, I know this is, been a journey for you throughout your life to becoming to conservatism. So I wonder, maybe you can tell our audience a little bit about your journey and how you became a conservative woman.
Absolutely. It's funny because I'm actually writing a book about that as we speak. During this lockdown, during COVID, I used my time to write a book, and yeah, I streamed some Netflix too, like all of us, but I wrote a book and I have a new song, and in this, I'm really excited to release it soon, but I'm sharing all the nitty gritty on my details on how I became a Trump supporter, because I went from a liberal left supporting feminist. I was registered independent, but I voted for Obama, all the way to being a Trumplican. I call myself a Trumplican because yes, I'm a Republican, but of that Trump brand. And it's different. We're a little bit more rebellious. We're a little bit more wild. And I do believe that many have said before, and I'm going to repeat it, conservatism is the new punk rock, because we have to go against what the modern society is saying, that it's okay to abort babies, that it's okay to say we don't need no man, that it's okay to be racist against white people, that it's okay to be all of these things, multiple, to confuse genders, to say that there's not two genders. It's okay to be, that's fine, when it's not okay. And it's actually causing the degradation of our society and of our country, I believe, and I stand for, and American values and principles. So I was an Obama supporter. I was left-leaning, but I was raised conservative, oddly enough. My dad is Argentinian and Italian. He passed away. He was a preacher, Christian minister. And so we would travel around Southern California, we would travel around New York, and he was a businessman. And so he always had Fox News on. And my mom, being Black American and part Choctaw, was non-political, was basically apolitical, but she voted Democrat, just like all the Black Americans in my family, right? So it's interesting. So I came being conservative Christian, but not really subscribing to the politics. Also back then, it wasn't a big thing to choose your politics. I remember George Bush, we supported Bush in our house. I remember after September 11th, though, how patriotism changed this country. How we were so proud to wear the American flag. You know, you go into Walmart, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. You know, you would hear the music, you would see the joy on people's faces when they talk about this country and us standing together against terrorism. And then what, 10 years, 15 years later, I think September 11th, now 20 years later, but everything fell apart. Suddenly we were against American values. It was offensive to have an American flag. Feminism, third wave, fourth wave feminism had taken over. No longer was it about women's rights, but about bashing men. And as this wave was happening, I was living my own sex, drugs, and rock and roll time. You know, I'm definitely not an angel. And I had a lot of painful things happen to me growing up. And I was looking for meaning. And I'm an artist, so I'm in Hollywood. And I want to be like everyone else in Hollywood, but I want to be individual and I want to have my career. And so I'm like saying the same things everyone else is saying, you know, I'm saying, yeah, feminism, and yes, definitely, you know, wear orange to combat gun violence, you know, all these things that are against conservative principles. I'm a proud supporter of the NRA and the Second Amendment now, of course, but all of these things I was brainwashed into believing. And I was young and I thought, this is how you have to do it. And I was pressured. It really is a liberal mob that pressures you. And so I went along with everything, even though personally I was pro-life and always will be. I was like, yeah, well, I can't judge other people. Maybe I shouldn't speak out about that. Maybe pro-choice, I choose to be pro-life. All of these things that are so easy to be trapped in when you are a young woman of color, told that this is the way you have to believe, this is the way you have to talk about in order to be accepted, in order to make it. I lost my way. I didn't know much about politics. I wasn't educated. That's why I always say a liberal is an uneducated conservative waiting to happen. You never know who's behind that, you know, ignorance until you start teaching them the facts. You start telling them, wait, let me show you why CNN has been debunked. Let me show you why President Trump is helping people of color, is helping American values. So after years of that and living out of the country and traveling, being successful in my music, 35 countries and counting, writing music, meeting friends, Trump came on the scene. And I was just like everyone else. I was thinking he was misogynistic, he was homophobic, he was all of those things, right? You know, I was like, oh yeah, but he's, you know, Trump is this way and that way. And so I would do the post, I would share all the posts. I was like, Bernie Sanders, yeah, okay, he must be the president. Now I voted for Obama before because I wanted a Black president. Honest to God, that's the only reason I voted for him. But if you look at what Obama was saying back when he was running in 2008, I only voted for him first term, he sounds more like Trump on immigration, on American values, than any leftist today. He would be considered a Republican almost by today's standards because the left has gone so far left. They've gone so far skewed that it's insane. It's a mob. So I had a friend talk to me and she said, you need to look at Trump. You know, you're from New York and you would love him. And I was like, okay, fine, let me look at him. And I started researching him and researching him and researching him until I started seeing his consistent message throughout everything. Till I found his iconic, I believe it's iconic, interview with Oprah. I think it was in 1989 or 88. And he says, and she asked Trump, what would you do if you were elected president? And he says, well, I would less foreign government. I would, less foreign oil. I would make sure that we were not beholden to foreign governments. And he says a bunch of things that he was campaigning on at that year, 2016. And a light bulb went off in my head. And I said, this is not the man the press is saying he is. He's not, because his words from his mouth consistently for the last 30 something years have been the same. And he's been honest. He says he personally was pro-life, but he was pro-choice, even though he was against abortion. And then he changed. He says, no, I've come to be compassionate. I am pro-life. And he's the most pro-life president. He's the most pro-minority president. I mean, jobs. There's so many listings on what he's done. But at that moment, there was no proof yet, except for his words. And I took a chance and I voted for that man. I stayed quiet about it until 2017, January. Madonna. Do you guys remember the Women's March? Yeah, Madonna went on stage in front of millions of other people and said, I thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House. And I was furious. Now, I was a secret Trump supporter by this time, trying to red pill people, but quietly. You know, when I did vote for Trump, I was like, oh, maybe you're going to vote for other people. And, oh, they're all crazy out there. And hashtag this. I knew Hillary was the devil. I knew Hillary was bad. She had a track record of bodies, right, of absolute, bad things. And she was purely bought by the pharmaceutical companies and Benghazi. That I knew that much. But I wasn't as educated on other conservative values until I became a Trumplican and until I actually started doing the research. And I tell you, when people leave the left, there is this sort of propagandization, if that's a word. Like you're like this with all those leftist ideas because you've been told this, this is the right way, support Black Lives Matter, support this, wear this on that. You've been told all these things and you're just a good little woke activist, right? Woke activist, doing all these little things and like, yep, I'm in Hollywood, it's very extreme out here. And then it was like, wait, but that doesn't actually help anybody. Hashtag this, but that's not right, but they're anti-cop. But I don't believe in that. That's not me. Wait, what? All of this stuff. And when I came out for Trump, I said, I'm going to have to do this publicly. And I really just wanted to throw a big middle finger to the establishment. And I'm a member of the Recording Academy. I have been since 2015. I walked the red carpet 2 years before, proud of that. Being a professional musician, being an actress, being an artist is my job. Independent. I was still registered independent when I voted for Trump, but I'm an independent musician as well. And then when January came around and she said that, and I saw how people were just absolutely obliterating the president. He was already elected. And of course, there's going to be people who don't like him, but they were character assassinating him. They were trying to assassinate his character. There was the Russia collision hoax. There was hoax after hoax after hoax. I said, this is not right. I got an idea to wear a Trump dress. I had a designer, a Filipino immigrant, Trump supporter, person I was working with at the time. And he said, hey, I could design you a dress. And we sort of joked about it. We had both cried on the phone for the opposite reason than my good friend Brandon Strzok. And we cried when Trump got elected, not because Hillary lost, but because we couldn't believe our luck that President Trump actually did get elected, as we were praying for him to. And so he said, well, I could design you a Trump dress because we're talking about the president. I was like, oh, I'd love to just come out and support him. And I said, let me ask. And I asked my husband at the time, I said, what do you think about me wearing a Trump dress to the Grammys? He goes, oh, no, that's dangerous. That's not okay. You shouldn't do that. You're going to get, it's not good PR. So I turned to the designer. I said, let's do it. Let's do it. I said, I have to do it. I love that reaction. Let's do it. There was something in me, you guys, that just exploded. I could not take it anymore. Having gone so into the left and seeing the left, the Democratic Party be so far left. Also, I wasn't a tried and true Democrat, but I voted Democrat. I thought I was an independent. I thought I was independently thinking, but I was brainwashed by all the liberal media. I was biased and I thought I wasn't. That's why it's so insidious, because it goes in there, it pulls on your heartstrings. Well, don't you love people of color? Don't you love women? Don't you love children? Right now we have the climate change hoax where they're using children. They know what they're doing and it's dangerous. So when I came out, I decided to wear that Trump dress, Make America Great Again on the top. I planned every moment of that. I knew the photographers would go crazy and I didn't care what would happen. I just wanted to stand up for the president because he had sacrificed his whole family, millions of dollars, billions of dollars, years of his life when he should just be enjoying his riches. He's in his 70s. He worked hard enough. He could just relax. He did all of that for us, the American people, to preserve our way of life, to make sure our traditional values stay, that we are not turned into a communist country. The least I could do is wear a dress to celebrate it. And you guys know the rest of the story. The backlash was huge. Death threats, racist terms thrown at me all the time. I still get that. I didn't care. I came out even stronger. I appeared on Fox News. I spoke about it. I spoke about my newfound conservatism again, coming back to being a conservative after growing up with it, but not understanding how important it was. And now at 34 years old, I've been doing this for 4 years. I was 30 years old when I walked that red carpet. I hit #1 on Billboard, #1 on iTunes, #1 on Amazon Music. I surpassed Adele, Beyonce, and Lady Gaga on those charts.
Wow. Joy, I want to, sorry to interrupt, Joy. This is amazing. You should hear some of the feedback we're getting. Love this brave woman from Terry and Thousand Oaks.
If you wanted a Q&A kind of style,
Yeah.
I want to tell you the story all in one breath.
No. We have questions. You're getting we're getting such great feedback, and your passion, your bravery. It's awesome. We do have questions. Bruce and I have a couple, and then we want to field some questions from the audience because we love the participation, and you're getting everyone's attention, which is great. You answered one of my questions, so I'm going to go to my second one.
Okay.
How has coming out of the conservative closet impacted you both personally and professionally?
It's absolutely changed my life. I actually privately counsel and speak to a lot of people online, celebrities, executives you wouldn't believe in the industry who are pro-Trump, musicians, athletes, actors. I keep their secret close to my heart. I wouldn't tell anyone, but they ask me, how can I survive? How can I exist? If I come out for Trump, I'll lose my family, I'll lose my food, I'll lose my paycheck, I'll lose my job, I'll lose everything, my survival basically. And I never tell somebody that they should just come out for Trump like that, because not everyone's going to wear a dress. But your brand of conservatism, your story, why are you so passionate for this president, for our values, for this nation, for your religious freedom? Tell that story. When somebody combats you on why you support the president, tell that story. Make it real to people, because you can't argue. People can argue the facts, but they can't actually argue personal stories. When I tell you I felt upset and angry that an idol of mine, an idol worshiper, but she's iconic, Madonna. I've worked with Madonna. I worked on her hard candy fitness tour. When I tell you she came out and said she wanted to blow up the White House and could say that just so bald-faced, like just so proud, and think that that's okay, and have cheers. When I tell you how much that broke my heart to see somebody that I respected, that's my personal experience. That's my feelings. That's my emotions. And that's why it challenged me to come out strong. So I always tell people to do that. It changed my life, because now I do that in all aspects. You won't regret it. Yes, the hate is strong. Yes, I've had people, spit on me, call me names. I've lost gigs. I've lost money. I've lost opportunities. You could say I've lost relationships. I've lost people that were my family, people I considered family, that no longer speak to me, unfortunately. But I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not.
That's what makes you great, Joy. It really does. Everybody's talking about Black Lives Matter right now, right? I mean, you see it being painted on the streets in New York. People are wearing masks that say Black Lives Matter and T-shirts. And the organization itself does not really stand for Black lives, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that organization and what they're doing today and all that money that's headed their way?
Well, Black Lives Matter, I used to support Black Lives Matter. I mean, in the way that I use the hashtag, and I'm a Black Live, and I said, yeah, and I argued with my brother, yeah, Black Lives Matter, but see, and he would say, well, all lives matter. I'm like, no, you can't say that. That's racist. I used to think that I was fighting for justice. That's what social justice warriors do. It's a cult. It's an ism. It's an absolute peer pressure. You guys don't even, if you were raised conservative all your life, you have no idea how insidious and how absolutely controlling this is, this cult of social justice warriorism. And that's why I speak about in my book. And that's why I try to tell you guys, because I do see some conservatives hate on people who are liberals and the left, this and that. And I think you should talk about the leftist establishment and Democratic establishment for how evil they are and absolutely how they degraded our culture and our people. Absolutely, 100%. Black, white, Jewish, all people of all nations and all races who reside in our beautiful country of America have been degraded by democratic rules, laws, and leadership. But when we talk about individuals, the individual person, the mind of a person who is a woketivist, there's two types. There's the person like I was, who's just not educated, but who wants to be a good person, who wants to help people, wants to do the right thing, who does think that, like, well, if I support Black Lives Matter, it means I support Black lives. And they might be white, they might be Black, they might be any color, but they're like, that's good, right? Because they're telling me they're good. Their name is Black Lives Matter. What's wrong with that? It's ignorant. It's naivete. It is dangerous. But then there's the second group that is even more dangerous. Those are the people controlling the naive people, saying, if you don't vote Black Lives Matter, you're a racist. If you vote for Trump, you're a racist. You are a white supremacist if you do X, Y, Z. If you don't do this, they're the bullies. They are the absolutely power hungry. I don't want to say evil, but they have evil intentions behind this. And those are the people running the show. And those are the smaller percentage, but you know, we've all seen movies and read the tale of tales where this, all it takes is one bad egg, one bad person to control a mass of just ignorant or unassuming people. And so most people you encounter, maybe unless you're on Twitter, who are woketivists and who are into all of this and who are into Black Lives Matter, who think they are actually in a good cause, are the first type, ignorant and naive. So try to be kind while you explain the facts to them. I always say that I come in kindness. You can disagree with me. I'm not going to hate you. We can have a disagreement, not an argument, because I don't got to prove why I support the president. I don't got to show the receipts, but sometimes I do. But I don't. If you're going to hate on me for that, then you can just keep walking. I mean, people come onto my page, on my social media, on my website, you know, they trash on my music, on everything I do, my YouTube, to say, oh, I don't support you and you're wrong in this. I'm like, well, then thanks for the comment. You can just keep on walking. Haters come with the territory. You're not doing something right if you don't have haters. But the second group, the evil people, those are the people running the Black Lives Matter establishment. And it is not for Black people. They do not go into the inner cities. They do not touch on the gang violence. They do not go into actually any causes that are really hurting Black Americans. They're going for the 0.5% of things that are happening rather than the 99.5% of things that are happening to Black Americans. And we're talking police brutality. Is that an important topic? Absolutely. Does it happen? Yes. Is racism real? Yes. But those aren't always one and the same thing. A police may be power hungry and brutal. That doesn't mean it was racially motivated. That doesn't mean all Black lives are getting, destroyed by cops. And don't look under your bed because there's a white supremacist in a hood ready to burn a cross on your yard. I mean, this is insane. The fear tactics since 2016 have been so extreme that all I do is laugh. You're going to tell me if I walk down the street, a white person is going to just beat me up, that I should be scared. Like, it's a fear tactic, just like this pandemic. I'm sorry to say, these are my viewpoints on the forced mask wearing, the forced of all this stuff, the country being locked up. All of these things are planned to scare you into watching more CNN, more propaganda, to being so afraid that you don't even vote in November, because that's what they want. They know their candidate is BS. They just don't want you voting for Trump again.
Wow,
And
Joy.
Lives Matter, and I just want to say one thing, funnels directly any money, that money is directly funneled to the DNC. And that has been proven. You look at, I think, Blue, Vote Blue, you can just Google those things. There's I actually want to post on my page, but all the money they receive, millions of dollars from celebrities who think they're doing the right thing.
Very much a Marxist group and anti-Semitic as well.
Very anti-Semitic. And I'm like, if you're trying to fight racism, you don't fight it with more racism. They hate white people, they hate Jewish people. They're a horrible group.
Agreed. Joy, you're obviously informed. There are so many questions coming from our JRA community.
Oh yeah, let's read some.
I got one more, and then we're gonna try to, as Mark likes to say, go through a what's he call it, a bullet round, or we're gonna try to go fast, but because there are so many questions people love you. I have a question for you, Joy. What is the one message you would like to share with the JRA community?
Whoa, one message. I would say be proud of who you are. In these tough times, celebrate who you are. You are Jewish, you are Republican, and you are strong. And not everyone who's a member of the JRA community has to be Jewish or even Republican for that matter. You can donate, you can support, but these are people who are being themselves in a climate, in a world where we're not allowed to do that anymore, where Marxism has controlled the voice of many people. And that's dangerous. So to the community, I applaud you. I'm proud of you. Keep working hard. There's never been a better time to stand up, say something, do something. If you can't do what my good friends here have done, then donate, because your funds go directly to propelling a group that is fighting for your rights every day. And I've been just so lucky and blessed to know these guys for years now, and we trade interviews and different things, and they always invite me to the speakers, and I love showing up. And I've met a lot of you guys in person, and there's not a more resilient community than the Jewish community. And to be Jewish and Republican and to stand for Israel in America is such a high honor and such an incredible mantle that God has placed on your shoulders. So be proud of who you are and keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you.
So you've been to, like you said, many of our events.
Yes.
When we were able to host live events.
I know, which will happen soon.
Yes.
Right.
Describe what it's like at a JRA event and how you feel about our organization and what got you excited about getting involved with us.
Yeah. Well, Bruce and Mitch have put together such a great organization that is for the people, by the people. Like, you know, it's easy. It's relaxed. It's a place where you can come and be yourself. Some of the top speakers in the country today, some of the biggest thought leaders in the conservative community come and speak. And there's no other place like that, especially in the heart of Los Angeles, where you can go into a Jewish temple and it is packed. Hundreds of people pack in that place. And everyone talks. They have the beautiful mixer meet and greets where the celebrity, the speakers come and actually interact with people. I'm often in there, and they provide food. So if you're going to go to the next event, you guys want to sign up for the VIP, because you get to actually meet amazing people. You get to find your sense of community, which is so important. It can be so lonely being a conservative in Los Angeles, much less a Jewish conservative in LA. And I tell you, being a member of this group is such an eye-opener for me, because I didn't know there were so many Republican Jews out there in LA, in the heart of liberalism. And that's the thing, it's an eye-opener. So when you go to these events, it's like going to church. You know, you're literally in a church, you're literally in a temple, and you're there to hear brilliant speakers like Ben Shapiro, Larry Elder, I forgot, but a lot of other speakers, I can't even recall all of them, and they're consistent. They always give more bang for their buck. When you go to an event, it's such a small fee for how much you get that I'm just blown away. The value of being able to be in a setting where there's hundreds of people who are there to celebrate this country, and then to watch a speaker who's done incredible things to help further the celebration of this nation is like, there's no words for it. It's almost like a spiritual experience. It's like when I go to Trump rallies, you know, you get to see, oh, we're actually here. There's more of us here. You know, and that's what we forget when we see the news, or we go to work and everyone's bashing on the president and everyone's like, F Trump and all this BS. And then you go and you go, oh, I can breathe. I'm at a JRA event, I can breathe. So that's how it is for me.
Great. Joy, I'm gonna hit you up with some of the comments.
Yeah,
Loving
I hope
who you
I can
are.
speak at one of the live events soon too. I would love to be a speaker if you guys want me to. I'd love to speak live.
Well,
We'd
when the
love to do
Lord
that.
opens up the state.
Yes. Come on, Gavin.
Yeah. So we're getting such great comments. Harriet, I'm so proud of you, Joy. Anonymous attendee, loving who you are. There's so many great questions. This is from Ed S., who says, is there a moderate group of silent Trump fans in the industry, or do you think it's very big?
Is there say that again?
Is there a moderate group of silent Trump fans in the entertainment industry, or would you say it's rather large?
Ooh, I would say that it's probably 35% of Hollywood is conservative. Now, are they Trumplicans? Probably a good portion of them are. I would say probably at least 25, 30% of those people are pro-Trump. So that's a big portion. When you think about Hollywood, you think probably like 2%, right? Because you never hear from them. Here's a little trick to probably tell. Are you conservative, or are you just cool with people being conservative, right? You're just not a hater. I have many friends who are just like, hey, I don't support Trump, but I don't hate Trump. I don't really care. He's the president. I love that too. Let me tell you why. Because those people are not going to stop us from fighting for the country. And those people can easily be swayed to vote. Those are the independent swing voters who are just not haters. And I love that. And once you show them the facts, they can usually become Trump supporters and hopefully voters. Then there's the portion that actually actively, publicly, systematically hate on our president. And those mother effers are loud, but they may be in the majority, but they're not the only amount of people. There's a lot of conservatives. I even told that to the president when I was at the White House months ago. I told the president, I said, you have a lot more support in Hollywood than you know. And he goes, I know. It's because they love those tax breaks. He's joking, but it's really funny because millionaires, business owners, multi-billionaires who are independent business owners, that's what an actor or an artist is in Hollywood, or producer or director or a network owner, you're already living the Republican lifestyle. Because if you have your own business, you're going to realize very quickly how much taxes hurt you. And the Democrats want more taxes to steal money out of your pocket and put it into someone else's pocket who's not even working for it. So the answer to the question is there's actually a lot more than you think. Will they come out and be outspoken before November? I hope so. They need to grow a pair and actually do it. I would hope so. I pray every day that they do.
Joy, we continue to get great comments. I have one from Emily. Joy, you are inspirational. I love your energy and your courage.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We're so proud of you, Joy. Loving who you are. Those are some of the comments we're getting so far. So what I know in the last election, and some people, we have anonymous people asking this, President Trump got some Black support, but the goal for this election is to get a lot more.
Right.
I know you're plugged into some groups like Blacks for Trump and others.
Yes.
What's it going to take to turn things around? And do you see there is a possibility that we could get 35% of Blacks voting for Trump in 2020?
Well, President Trump actually got more support amongst Black Americans as a Republican than Republicans before him, which is really interesting. It wasn't a huge number in the Black community as a whole, but as far as Republicans go, he garnered more support than the Republicans who ran before him in the other elections, which is exciting. So that number already was a little bit higher than normal. And now, because he's allocated more than $1 billion toward the Urban Revitalization Act, towards historical Black colleges and universities. The First Step Act was passed, which frees a lot of nonviolent criminals or criminals who've served their time or have too long of sentences, for petty crimes, who've just been stuck in the system. And they're Black Americans mainly. Because he's done such incredible things, he's hosted Black American events in the White House multiple times for Black History Month. He's had all the room. What he did in January, which most people didn't know about, is he had a room full of Black preachers, a room filled with Black preachers and educators in the community, filling the Oval Office. And those photos went viral, not because he's the first president to do that for Black Americans, not even the Black president did that, Obama, but because Kellyanne Conway took her shoes off to take the photo on the couch. Because you're not going to step on presidential furniture with your high heels on, everyone knows that. But that went viral, they zoomed in on her feet. This is the problem. This is also the solution though. Black Americans need to ignore the news and look at the facts. What has this president done for you? What has Joe Biden done for you? Nothing. He said that if you don't vote for him, you ain't Black. He can't even remember if he's running for Senate or if he's running for president. He's sniffing kids' hair. He's being a weirdo. He is not the man. He didn't get the attention of even Obama. Obama didn't even say, okay, yes, I endorse you until only a couple months ago. This man is not the one who's going to help the Black American people become better, stronger, and more enabled. And that's what we need. We need better education. We have school of choice. President Trump has done that, so that if you were born and raised in a ghetto area, you don't have to go to those schools there. You can go to schools where you can have a better education, just like the white kids. So what is exactly racist about this president? Nothing. But if you follow the news, if you believe the hype, if you trust the celebrities who are making a quick buck off controversy, you're going to be confused. So I speak directly to Black Americans when I say, what you need to do is unplug from the propaganda and think for yourself. We've been told we're supposed to do this, that, and the other for years. As a mixed race Black American woman, I've been told all kinds of things by society, by politicians. I'm not saying you got to trust all politicians, but trust that this president has proven his track record in the last 4 years. And as conservatives who want to get more Black votes, you need to speak to Black Americans. You need to tell them these facts. You know, you need to say, hey, listen, I care about making America a better place, and that includes you. Look what this president's been doing. And then rattle off those facts I just told you now and provide the receipts for it. And as if you're a Black American and you're going to vote and you're staying silent in your community, you need to speak up. Black Americans are more historically conservative, and yet they vote Democrat. Why? Because of the propaganda, because of the hype, and because of the handouts. So Republicans are going to have to step up the game. We're going to have to speak with compassion, sincerity, and the facts. Because if we don't, we can lose a huge, not just voting bloc, but like American people. Black and white Americans built this country. Like we did. All nations built this country. But Black Americans really built this country along with white Americans. Yeah, it was forced slavery. Listen, that's over. And guess who helped free slaves? Black and white people. So if you're a Black American thinking, oh, white people are out to get me, that's not going to serve you very long. And join forces with other colors and other people of this great nation. We need to stop the racist diatribe, because if you go too far left, or if you go any inch left now, it's all about racism. It's all about division. And that's not going to bring this country together.
No. All right, Joy. We're in the lightning round. We are down to 15 minutes, and there's the love that's being poured on you from our audience is just fantastic.
Wow.
So this is a question from Dawn, D-A-W-N, who's watching at my house with my wife, Stephanie. We're having a watch party. She wants to know, regarding Twitter,
Okay.
how do you feel about the mask and how it's being used to remind people that we are sick?
I do have a mask that I wear when I have to. Trump masks, you guys can get this, a Trump mask. I hate it. First of all, I think that if you want to wear a mask, go for it. If you are sick, definitely wear it. But it is used to undermine American freedom. It's used to keep us down. It's servitude, and it's disgusting. Like I just had a woman in my neighborhood give me its complete dirty eye. And I mean, she's a Karen. It's enabled Karens. If you guys don't know that phrase, it's people who call the manager on you because you're not following the rules. Exactly. And she just gave me this dirty look, and she was just looking at, because I wasn't wearing a mask. Listen, you're wearing a mask. You're fine. You are free to do what you want. I am free to do what I want. What happened to my rules, my body, my choice? This is actually my body. So it's the hypocrisy and it's the control. And meanwhile, COVID cases are going down, deaths are going down, yet the country is more on lockdown, and masks are being pushed because it's an outward sign of servitude, unless you're a medical professional. That's my viewpoint.
Joy, when we did the Candace Owens event in March, we were one of the last big events, but we were honored, right? We had a big group of police officers that kept us safe. In fact, Mitch and I have a great picture with about 20 police officers behind us.
Wow.
Getting ready for the event. We have a question from Ken L. He says, I live in a very liberal California, but everyone I speak with is super angry about the Democratic support for the cancel culture and defunding the police. Do you believe there's enough anger in the Black and Latino communities to bring a Trump victory and congressional wins in November? Because we would think that the inner city people want the police. They want to be safe. It's not like only white people want to be safe.
Right.
It's
right.
Doesn't make sense. So what are your thoughts?
Absolutely, I agree that I do think that a lot of this leftism will backfire on them. The more they try to tell us, we need to defund the police, it doesn't make sense, because who are you going to call when your baby is choking? Like there was a video that went viral. A police officer saved this, I think she was a Latina woman's baby from choking. He knew how to apply the right pressure. And this baby was 6 months or less old, and she's freaking out. And then sure enough, he goes, she's all right. He's all right. He's fine. He's crying. He's okay. And the baby's breathing. And this was a gripping video to show how amazing police officers are. And it's a real thing that happened. So for every bad cop, there's thousands of good cops. We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And Blacks and Latinos are not idiots. So you're telling us defund the police because what? You're going to put money towards our education. You're going to help me. You're going to give us more welfare. Like they're promising the sun, the moon, and the stars, and they've done nothing with the money they already have. So Black American voters, Latino American voters are not idiots. They're going to see that this is crazy, that 14% of the police force is African American, actually. I just recently wrote an op-ed on Wayne Dupree's website where I talk about voice over violence. We need to use our voices over this violence, and that we see that defunding the police is an absolute mistake. Crime has gone up in places that have been defunded, including Los Angeles, which is why I'm moving out of Los Angeles proper and moving a little more down south towards Long Beach, where, but in Los Angeles and Hollywood, they've defunded the police $150 million. That's not going to help anybody. In New York, they defunded $1 billion, 1/5 of the budget. And crime is going up statistically. So in the inner city, it's even worse. Like you said, it's not just white people who want protection. It's people of all colors. So their ignorant diatribe that this is the way to do it, and because we tell you so, is going to backfire on them. And I'm just like, keep pushing it, keep going more extreme, go for it. Because people are going to wake up and go, nah, this ain't it. Just like Nick Cannon coming out and saying horrible things, saying white people are nothing than animals, saying Jewish people are animals, like disgusting racist stuff. He's a Black supremacist. This is a Hollywood star. He was married to Mariah Carey, been on movies, TV. Thank God Viacom dropped him. And people got upset about that. And I'm like, are you serious? You're gonna call our president racist who hasn't done one racist thing or said one racist thing. Meanwhile, here's an avowed Black supremacist, and you're upset that he got dropped from your favorite MTV show. It's going to flip flop. It's going to reverse the tide. So I'm thinking, let them be extreme. Let their racism show. Let them, their anti-cop sentiment, their anti-America sentiment. Let it be. All we got to do as Republicans is sit back, let them be crazy, and get those voter signups for the rest of the people who are dropping out of being Republicans, of being Democrats, who are walking away. We'll catch you. Come on over. We got you.
Great, Joy. We've got just a few more minutes and so many more questions.
Oh my
Here's
God.
a question from Marlene W. in West Hills, near and dear to Mark's heart. It's Mark's wife, Marlene. What's your take on the support for Trump? Has it been impacted negatively, first by the COVID response / shutdowns, and secondly by the riots that followed the death of George Floyd? How do you think that has impacted President Trump's support?
In the beginning of it, I was a little bit afraid. I thought this is going to make everyone very, I felt vulnerable about it because there was so many things going on. And that was a horrible thing that happened with George Floyd. And I agree with the sentiments of outrage over it. And thank God that cop was condemned and fired, and he's going to be tried for murder, as he should be, and the other cops who were around him. But the anti-police sentiment, the racist sentiments, the violence, the riots, all of that following, I think, to me, was an eye-opener for a lot of people, because I have a lot of friends who are liberals who said, I love you, Joy, but I'm never voting Trump. I'm never following. I am not a conservative. We don't talk about it. We're just friends on the other things, right? Because we're all multifaceted people. I'm not all politics, even though most of you guys probably see that. But, I actually have a normal life. I've got a boyfriend. He's non-political, and I love that. But those people, those friends of mine who I thought will never even register to vote, after this Black Lives Matter riots and the burning of cities, the CVS down my street was robbed, by the way, just a little too close for comfort. They're going, yeah, cancel culture and all of this sentiment and all of this craziness, maybe there's something wrong with it. And I'm going, bingo. So at first it may have seemed like support for the president would dip from this, but the president stayed true. He never acknowledged that, like he did everything. He just let it play out. And he has condemned Black Lives Matter, just as he's condemned the KKK, just as he's condemned Antifa. All of these domestic terrorist groups must be condemned for what they are. And the president just played it perfectly. And I do believe that the tide is going to turn back towards support for the president, because that's what I see. My personal group, and I live in the most liberal city, the heart of it, heart of Hollywood, and people are going, maybe all this craziness is not just, it's not Trump craziness. Maybe it's actually because they're crazy, right? They're like, oh, because a lot of people love to go, oh, Trump's crazy too, and I don't believe any of it. It's all crazy. I don't like politics. Then they go, wait a second. It's not Trump people. Not one MAGA hat was burning the city down. Not one MAGA hat was robbing people and beating people in the streets, as we saw from those Black Lives Matter protests.
We have a question from Barbara Lee.
Okay.
Jewish organizations and liberal synagogues are supporting BLM and teaching white guilt. How do we deal with this? The whole issue of white privilege and people, apologizing for being who they are is a little bit hilarious, but it seems to be taught to our young folks now that they wake up in the morning and, slap themselves in the face for being who they are. But what are your thoughts on all that?
You should slap yourself 12 and a half times for me because you're white. No, stupid. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. It's like the idea of reparations. Like everybody wants revenge and they want to get something for nothing. We're talking about people who never were slave owners trying to apologize to people who were never slaves. Imagine if the Jewish people did that. Hey, every German, I need you to slap yourself 10 times in the morning for what you've done to my people. Like, this is insane. This is insanity. And that was more recent than slavery. So that's not how we move on. That we don't make people feel guilty and sad for something they had no part in. You celebrate the successes. You celebrate how far we've come in this nation. You celebrate that this place is still a place where it's overcrowded in immigration offices. If this nation is so bad, then why are so many people trying to get in here every day? Because this is the only nation that was built on values that say that you are a human being, you deserve human rights, you can come to this country, you can live the American dream, you do it legally, you can come here, you can build a family, you can build a business, and you can be afforded the same rights as anyone else. And we are not perfect, but we are striving towards a better nation for the people, by the people. And if you don't support that, you're tearing it down. So all of these liberal ass colleges and universities are tearing down our nation and should be told that and should not be given money. I think funding should be pulled from these universities. I think that if they want to do that, they want to teach this biased crap, then it should be exposed and people should stop going to these universities and try going to small private colleges that are going to back your values, or even better, unless you have to, don't go to college at all. Start a business. I'm not pro-college. I'm not anti-college, but for very, very few actual careers, engineers, doctors, nursing degrees, all those kind of things, you actually need to go to college. Not even a nurse, you have to go to college because you can go to a nursing school. Go to technical schools, get a skill, get educated in that way. And then have a trade and then go support your family and go support your life and go be emboldened. Don't go to university for 6 years, 4 years and get fed their BS and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for it. Don't do it.
Joy, we're in the lightning round. We've got a couple of minutes left. Another great question from Jody D. What do you think of Oprah Winfrey signing on to do movies and TV promoting the 1619 Project?
I did hear a bit about the 1619 Project. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about it to say that, but I am disappointed in Oprah Winfrey as of late. She was one of my biggest icons that I want to be like Oprah. I want to be a billionaire that gives to my community, that builds schools and education and helps. And as a talk show, I would love to have a talk show. I produce books and my branding as a conservative with health and fitness and content that uplifts America. She has an amazing legacy, but as of late, she's made choices that are awful. And I believe we've lost Oprah like we've lost most of Hollywood. And they're choosing the far left rather than America.
I have a question here from the audience, anonymous. What do you think about how to educate young people?
How to educate young people? How would I educate young people? Maybe that's the question.
Well, right now they're being indoctrinated in their schools. They really don't hear both sides. How do we change that?
You have to educate them. If you're a parent, you have to educate your kids. I've always gone to school, and I was in advanced placement classes. I graduated 2 years early from high school. I believe in education, but you have to educate your kids. That's the biggest education they're going to get. I learned from my parents and from peers who I looked up to, and from mentors more than anyone else, and from teachers individually who were really great teachers. So in a sense, it's a bit of a joke. I also think, though, that homeschooling is an amazing option. If you're really worried about, I was homeschooled for a few years as well. We used to move around a lot. Education can come in all different forms. If you are concerned about it, first of all, join your school's board, go to the PTA meetings, speak up, have your voice be heard. You don't want sex education given to 10-year-olds? I don't blame you. Speak up about it. You don't want, non-gender, sexuality and all this stuff being taught to third graders. Speak up. I don't blame you for these things. You don't want other things. You don't want kids not being able to pray in school, not be able to do things. Speak up and use your voice, because I think we tend to be like, oh, the whole education system's messed up and it's a big, broad thing. And that's true, but that's too overwhelming. Start small. Your area, your children, your nephews and nieces, your brothers and sisters, your family, your friends. What can you do? Find out a problem, work from the problem, and then go backwards and say, okay, now what's the solution? What can I do? And start local. That's the only way we're going to change it. And elect people who are local. And if you don't have kids, or you can't run, or you can't do those things, then give money to people who are running and doing the work out there. I'm telling you, you can vote with your dollars. Democrats have been doing it for a long time. That's
great advice, Joy. Joy, I want to tell you, it's been an absolute joy to have you on. It's been a pleasure. We'll have you back on when you release your book. We're excited to hear all about that. We always love to hear your words of wisdom and your freedom of expression to let your opinions be known. And we wish you the best and continued success in everything you do.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here in these crazy times. I hope that my words have helped you. I hope that everybody out there feels that they are not alone, because you are not alone. And donate and support this incredible group. Bruce and Mitch have been putting together these things for years for you guys. So I'm really grateful to my friends and to all my friends at the Jewish Republican Alliance. You guys, we are an alliance, and we will reelect President Donald J. Trump, and we will take our country back for everyone, all races, all colors, all religions, because that's what this country was founded upon. And if you'd like to hear more of me, or you'd like to find me, please don't hesitate to email me or find me at joy@joyvilla.com, joyvilla.com as well, and joyvilla on Instagram, @joyvilla, on Twitter, it's @joy_villa. Just Google me, Joy Villa, I'm everywhere. So yeah, I love to come back.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all out there for joining us. We'll be back next week with Pastor Robert Stearns. He's going to be exciting to hear as well. Until that, we wish everybody a great weekend, and Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Yes.
Bye-bye, Joy.
Bye, Joy.
Bye. Thank you, guys.